Installing outlets at baseboard height in a studio apartment is generally permissible, but it's important to consider the benefits, potential issues, and the installation process. Firstly, accessibility is a significant advantage. Outlets placed at baseboard height are often easier to reach, particularly for individuals with mobility impairments. This can improve convenience and safety. Secondly, safety is enhanced by keeping cords low to the ground, reducing the risk of tripping hazards. This is especially important in smaller spaces where clutter can easily accumulate. Thirdly, aesthetics can be improved. Baseboard outlets can blend more seamlessly with the trim, creating a cleaner and more visually appealing look compared to outlets placed higher on the wall. However, there are several considerations to keep in mind. Firstly, building codes must be checked. Local electrical codes vary, so it's essential to verify that installing outlets at baseboard height is permitted in the specific jurisdiction. Secondly, floor coverings need to be accounted for. If the studio has carpeting, it may be necessary to install outlet extenders or use a different type of outlet cover to ensure the outlets are accessible and safe. Thirdly, electrical wiring is a key consideration. Running electrical wiring to baseboard outlets may require professional assistance, especially if it involves tapping into existing circuits or running new wires through walls. Now let's outline the installation process step by step. 1. Locate the studs. Use a stud finder to identify the studs behind the baseboard where the outlets will be installed. 2. Cut the baseboard. Using a miter saw or jigsaw, carefully cut the baseboard where the outlets will be positioned. 3. Install the electrical box. Secure an electrical box to the stud behind the baseboard. This box will house the outlet. 4. Run the wires. Connect the electrical wires to the electrical box, ensuring all connections are secure and properly insulated. 5. Install the outlet. Insert the outlet into the electrical box and secure it with screws. 6. Reattach the baseboard. Place the cut section of baseboard back into position and secure it with nails or screws. 7. Install the outlet cover. Choose an outlet cover that complements the style of the trim and provides a finished look. Here are some important tips to remember. Firstly, use ground fault circuit interrupter (DFCI) outlets in areas where water may be present, such as near sinks or in bathrooms. GFCI outlets help prevent electrical shocks. Secondly, cover any exposed wires with electrical tape to prevent accidental contact and ensure safety. Thirdly, test the outlets after installation to confirm they are working correctly. Use an outlet tester to verify proper wiring and grounding. Now let's go deeper into each of these steps. When locating studs, it is important to understand the typical spacing. Studs are generally spaced either 16 inches or 24 inches on center. Using a stud finder, move it horizontally along the wall until it indicates the presence of a stud. Mark the location with a pencil. To confirm the stud's location, you can also use a small nail or screw to probe the wall. If you hit solid wood, you found the stud. Be careful not to damage the wall excessively. When cutting the baseboard, accuracy is crucial. Measure the dimensions of the electrical box and transfer those measurements to the baseboard. Use a miter saw for clean, precise cuts, especially if the baseboard has a decorative profile. A jigsaw can also be used, but it may require more careful handling to ensure straight cuts. Remember to wear safety glasses when cutting the baseboard to protect your eyes from debris. When installing the electrical box, ensure it is securely attached to the stud. Use screws that are long enough to penetrate the stud deeply. The electrical box should be flush with the surface of the wall or slightly recessed, depending on the type of outlet cover being used. Make sure the box is level before securing it. When running the wires, safety is paramount. Turn off the power to the circuit before working with any electrical wires. Use appropriately sized wires for the circuit's amperage. Typically, 14-gauge wire is used for 15-amp circuits and 12-gauge wire is used for 20-amp circuits. Follow the National Electrical Code (NEC) guidelines for wire connections and grounding. Use wire connectors, such as wire nuts, to securely join wires. Ensure all connections are tight and properly insulated. When installing the outlet, connect the wires to the corresponding terminals on the outlet. The black wire, hot, goes to the brass terminal. The white wire, neutral, goes to the silver terminal. The green or bare copper wire, ground, goes to the green grounding screw. Double check that all connections are secure and that no bare wire is exposed. When reattaching the baseboard, use finishing nails or screws to avoid damaging the baseboard. Countersink the nails or screws and fill the holes with wood filler for a seamless finish. If the baseboard has a decorative profile, take extra care to align it properly with the existing baseboard. When installing the outlet cover, choose a cover that matches the style and color of the baseboard for a cohesive look. The outlet cover should fit snugly against the wall and cover the electrical box completely. Use screws that are the correct length to avoid damaging the outlet or the electrical box. Remember to use GFCI outlets in areas prone to moisture. GFCI outlets constantly monitor the current flowing through the circuit. If there is a difference between the incoming and outgoing current, which could indicate a ground fall, the GFCI outlet will trip and cut off power to the circuit, preventing electrical shock. Test GFCI outlets monthly to ensure they are functioning correctly. Press the test button on the outlet. The outlet should trip and the reset button should pop out. To restore power, press the reset button. When covering exposed wires with electrical tape, use high-quality electrical tape that is rated for the voltage of the circuit. Wrap the tape tightly around the wires, overlapping each layer to create a secure and insulated connection. Ensure that all exposed metal is completely covered by the tape. When testing the outlets after installation, use an outlet tester to verify that the wiring is correct. The tester will indicate whether the outlet is properly wired, grounded, and polarized. If the tester indicates a problem, such as reversed polarity or an open ground, turn off the power to the circuit and recheck the wiring. If you are not comfortable working with electrical wiring, it is always best to hire a qualified electrician. Electricians have the training and experience to safely and correctly install electrical outlets and wiring. Working with electricity can be dangerous, and it is important to take all necessary precautions to avoid electrical shock or fire. In summary, installing outlets at baseboard height in a studio apartment can be a worthwhile project, providing increased accessibility, enhanced safety, and improved aesthetics. However, it's crucial to prioritize safety, adhere to local building codes, and follow proper installation procedures. If you're unsure about any aspect of the process, consult with a qualified electrician to ensure the job is done correctly and safely. Remember that electrical codes are in place for the safety of yourself and others and should be respected. Always check with your local authority before starting any electrical work. The NEC is a comprehensive set of standards that governs electrical installations in the United States. It is updated every 3 years, and it is important to stay up to date with the latest edition. The NEC covers a wide range of topics, including wiring methods, overcurrent protection, grounding, and equipment installation. It is used by electricians, inspectors, and other professionals in the electrical industry. The NEC is not law, but it is often adopted by state and local governments as part of their building codes. Even if the NEC is not legally required in your area, it is still a good idea to follow its guidelines to ensure that your electrical installations are safe and reliable. One important aspect of electrical safety is grounding. Grounding provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, tripping a circuit breaker or fuse and preventing electrical shock. All electrical outlets and equipment should be properly grounded. Grounding is typically achieved by connecting the metal parts of the electrical system to a grounding electrode, such as a ground rod or a metal water pipe. Another important aspect of electrical safety is overcurrent protection. Overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers and fuses, are designed to protect electrical circuits from damage caused by excessive current flow. These devices will trip or blow when the current exceeds a certain level, cutting off power to the circuit and preventing overheating or fire. It is important to use the correct size circuit breaker or fuse for each circuit. Using a circuit breaker or fuse that is too large can allow excessive current to flow, potentially causing damage or fire. Electrical wiring should be installed in accordance with the NEC. The NEC specifies the types of wiring methods that are allowed in different situations. For example, non-metallic sheath cable, often called Romex, is commonly used for residential wiring. However, it is not allowed in certain locations, such as underground or in wet locations. In these situations, other wiring methods, such as conduit or underground feeder cable, must be used. When working with electrical wiring, it is important to use the correct tools. Wire strippers are used to remove the insulation from wires without damaging the conductors. Pliers are used to bend and cut wires. Screwdrivers are used to tighten screws on electrical devices. It is also important to wear appropriate personal protective equipment, such as safety glasses and insulated gloves. Never work on electrical wiring while standing in water or on a wet surface. Water is a good conductor of electricity, and it can increase the risk of electrical shock. If you are unsure about any aspect of electrical safety, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrician. Electricians have the training and experience to safely and correctly install and repair electrical wiring. They can also help you to identify and correct any electrical hazards in your home. In addition to the tips mentioned earlier, here are a few more things to keep in mind when installing outlets at baseboard height. Consider the placement of furniture and appliances when deciding where to locate the outlets. You want to make sure that the outlets are easily accessible and that cords will not be stretched across walkways. If you have young children, consider installing tamper-resistant outlets. These outlets have a mechanism that prevents children from inserting objects into the slots. Use a level to ensure that the outlets are installed straight. This will give your installation a professional look. After installing the outlets, label the circuit breakers in your electrical panel. This will make it easier to turn off the power to the outlets in the future if you need to make repairs or replace them. Regularly inspect your electrical outlets and wiring for any signs of damage. If you notice any problems, such as frayed wires or cracked outlets, have them repaired immediately. By following these tips, you can safely and effectively install outlets at baseboard height in your studio apartment. Remember to always prioritize safety and to consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions or concerns. In addition to accessibility and safety, baseboard outlets can also offer a more streamlined aesthetic. Traditional outlet placement, typically higher on the wall, can sometimes disrupt the visual flow of a room, especially if you have artwork or other decorative elements that you want to highlight. Baseboard outlets, on the other hand, can blend seamlessly with the trim, minimizing their visual impact and creating a cleaner, more cohesive look. This can be particularly beneficial in smaller spaces like studio apartments, where every detail contributes to the overall feel of the room. When planning your baseboard outlet installation, consider the type of outlet covers you want to use. There are many different styles and finishes available, so you can choose covers that complement your existing trim and decor. Some outlet covers are even paintable, allowing you to perfectly match them to your wall color. In addition to standard outlets, you may also want to consider installing USB outlets at baseboard height. These outlets have built-in USB ports, allowing you to charge your mobile devices without the need for bulky adapters. USB outlets are becoming increasingly popular, and they can be a convenient addition to any home. When installing electrical wiring, it is important to use the correct type of wire for the application. The type of wire you need will depend on the amperage of the circuit and the location of the wiring. For example, non-metallic sheath cable, often called Romex, is commonly used for residential wiring. However, it is not allowed in certain locations, such as underground or in wet locations. In these situations, other wiring methods, such as conduit or underground feeder cable, must be used. Always check the NEC for specific requirements. Before starting any electrical work, it is essential to disconnect the power to the circuit. This can be done by turning off the circuit breaker in your electrical panel. Before touching any wires, double-check that the power is off by using a voltage tester. This will help to prevent electrical shock. When connecting wires, Use wire connectors, such as wire nuts, to ensure a secure connection. Wire connectors should be sized appropriately for the number and gauge of wires being connected. Twist the wires together tightly before screwing on the wire connector. This will help to ensure a good electrical connection. After connecting the wires, wrap the wire connector with electrical tape to provide extra insulation and protection. This will help to prevent shorts and other electrical problems. When installing electrical devices, such as outlets and switches, be sure to follow the manufacturer's instructions carefully. This will help to ensure that the devices are installed correctly and safely. Use the correct screws to attach the devices to the electrical box. Over-tightening the screws can damage the device, while under-tightening them can cause the device to come loose. After installing electrical devices, test them to make sure they are working properly. Use an outlet tester to check the wiring and grounding of outlets. Use a multimeter to check the voltage and current of circuits. If you are not comfortable working with electrical wiring, it is always best to hire a qualified electrician. Electricians have the training and experience to safely and correctly install and repair electrical wiring. They can also help you to identify and correct any electrical hazards in your home. Remember that electrical work can be dangerous, and it is important to take all necessary precautions to avoid electrical shock or fire. Always follow the NEC and local building codes, and consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions or concerns.